Hey, how's it going? Welcome to part 2 of the Nashville pedal hunting. So if you haven't seen part 1, you should check that out. That's where I was in the stores and demoing some of the pedals and ended up with a couple. And today we're going to actually demo those pedals here in the studio. We're going to talk about a little bit more about what they are and what's going on inside these pedals. So in Nashville, I ended up with two kind of fuzzy pedals, not necessarily fuzz pedals, but they're both fuzzy. So this one has got velvet covering, and then this is a fuzz, and it's also got a velvet covering. And so these are the two that I ended up with from Nashville, which is the GTown Holygrail Overdrive. It's like a Dumbleoid clone. And then I ended up with the Warm Audio Foxy Tone Box, which is a Fox Tone fuzz circuit clone, and it's a pretty faithful recreation from what I understand. Both of these are pretty inexpensive pedals, and so we're going to check them out and see what they can do. But also we have a third pedal that I ended up picking up in St. Louis on the way down to Nashville, and it's this J.Rockett Flex Drive. I don't believe they make this anymore, but it's a cool little versatile overdrive. You know, another one to add to the collection. I'm a fiend for collecting unnecessary amounts of drive pedals. So these are some, you know, some of them will stay, some of them won't, but I like picking them up, playing them, and see, you know, if I end up grabbing them to track a song frequently over the next, you know, coming month or two, then they'll stay. And if I don't end up grabbing them, and maybe I grab them and I don't use them a couple times, then they usually get kicked out and you know, make room for some more. So without further ado, let's jump on into the pedal demos. All right, let's take a look at these pedals, but first I want to talk about the gear that I'm using today. I've got my Party Smith 30 amp, which is an EL84. It kind of feels like Dr. Z Matchless territory, but maybe less sparkle and chime. It's a little darker of an amp for sure. So that's the clean tone, and I'll reference that more when we start diving into these pedals. So, and this is a Partscaster Telecaster. I believe it's a MJT body, and I think an all parts neck that was relicked. I bought this in Nashville for a steal a few years ago. It's got a really dark neck pickup. And I've got a little bit of reverb on the amp just because I find it super difficult to play just totally dry. So the reverb is coming from the amps, just a spring reverb. So let's get into some of these pedals. I'm going to read a little bit of the description and manual from some of these pedals. So let's start with this GTown Holygrail Overdrive. Before we play anything, let me read you what they say on their website. So obviously it's going after that Dumbleoid pedal. I mean, that's really what this is a clone of. You can tell just by looking at it. It's got the velvet, and it looks like it's, you know, made with the label maker. And so it's going after those Dumble sounds. And I specifically didn't use my Smart Bell Dumble because I want to kind of see how close this gets to that style of gain. On their website, it talks about the compressed versus open switch, which is this right here. And that's supposed to emulate the jazz and rock settings. So it's touch sensitive, going for that Robin Ford and Larry Carlton tone in the comp mode to get kind of woolly round characteristics, and then the Keith Urban Santana stuff when it's in the open sound. So it doesn't really give us many specifications. I'm really curious on really what the accent knob is doing here, because it doesn't do the same thing as the accent from the Dumble over here, which is more of like a presence knob, and then it also doesn't seem to do the same thing as the accent knob on a Dumbleoid. So let's just kind of start with everything right up in the middle in the comp mode and see what happens. Here's the clean tone. I'm in the middle position. Let's take everything to 2 o'clock, where Mick from that pedal show says every pedal sounds best at 2 o'clock. So let's test that here. It's a little bright to me. Let's listen to what this accent knob does. So here's all the way up. Sounds like the low end is kind of falling apart a little bit. It's really bright. And then we'll take this down. Huge effect on volume. Sounds like the high mids are being adjusted along with maybe some other things. So let's take the tone down and the accent back up. Let's see what the open mode sounds like. Yeah, a lot less gain, definitely less compressed. Bumping volume. I feel like this mode wants to be a little less drivey. Let's hear what this sounds with the drive up a little bit. Got a lot of gain in this pedal. Definitely plenty of gain, probably more than I would ever use, really. So let me just dial in maybe how I would use this pedal. good sounding pedal. Overall, I dig it for sure. So let's move on to the J.Rockett Flex Drive. So this one, what they have on their manual, I don't believe they make this pedal anymore. But I quickly looked over the manual, and it says with this pedal, it's their most versatile pedal at the time in their lineup. And they said their attempt was to achieve the Malcolm Young sound, so that's their kind of rhythm sound that they were going for, all the way up to Van Halen 2. And so that's a big wide spectrum. So what I understand about this pedal is you've got a 3-way treble switch, okay? So in the center, there is no treble cut. In the up position, there's a slight treble roll off, and in the down position is the most treble cut that you're going to get, so the least amount of high end. And then the clipping in the center is open, so that's going to be like your big open sound. It's going to get more of a boost pedal vibe from it, so if you crank the gain, I think they even say on here that, you know, watch out, it's going to be a little harsh sounding. And then you've got 2 other clipping modes. So I believe it's asymmetrical and then symmetrical clipping, and then you've got a fat switch, which just kind of bumps up the low end. So let's go, let's just start with the cleanest possible tone. So I'll take the gain down a little bit. So this should just be just more of a clean boost. Tone knob is not super active, which I like. You can do more fine tuning with it. So you get that more of a boosted clean sound with this. Okay, and then let's engage the fat switch. Yeah, that adds a lot of low end. It's a little muddy in this rig, so maybe if we bring the tone up. Yeah, I still like it without the fat switch. So let's go through these treble cut settings. All right, and then let's go to this first gain. So I'll bring these back to noon. It's a little bright. That's just a great rock and roll rhythm sound right there, or even like a heavy blues lead tone. And then let's compare that to the other clipping option. this one seems a little boosted and maybe even a little more compressed versus this one. So I'm going to show you what I mean by if you have the gain way up on this open with no clipping mode, it's really harsh. But what I found, which is really cool, if you take this and take the high end out and add the fat switch and just boost the gain, you can almost get fuzzy type sound. Definitely got a lot of tones in this one. You know, everything from a clean boost with a little bit of tone shaping, you know, through some nice, just classic rock, hard rock sounds. Great rhythm pedal, really, honestly. I think in either of the clipping modes, you can dial in a really solid overdrive, you know, distortion rhythm tone that's not too muddy. That's the cool thing. This fat switch adds a little bit of mud, in my opinion. So, you know, if you're gained up in one of these settings, that's a great tone. I think that would sit in a mix nicely. It's not too bright, so it'd be a great rhythm sound. Cool pedal. So, and that was one that I grabbed in St. Louis, actually not on this Nashville pedal hunting. It was just on the way, found a little shop and ended up with that one. So let's move on to this Warm Audio Foxy tone box. So obviously this is a recreation of the Fox tone box, one of the early fuzz pedals. You know, it's got you know, everybody's used this. Peter Frampton, Billy Gibbons. You know, this is something that Hendrix used. You see these fuzz pedals with the knobs on the side here, you know, and so so let's walk through a little bit. It's a germanium fuzz, and they found new old stock Fairchild transistors that were in the original Fox tone boxes, and so we've got germanium diodes in there. Not a whole lot here. So you've got the option of an octave with this big switch. It's just a big pedal. It's cool. It's covered in this velvet. So I ended up from Nashville with these two fuzzy velvet pedals. And so we'll play this a little bit with the telly, and then I'll grab my Strat and we can do kind of the Hendrix thing with it. So we've got volume, sustain, which is going to be really your gain, the intensity of the fuzz. And then this is a tone knob that they call mellow bright. So you can go from a mellow to a bright sound. It is hyperactive. My wife loves fuzz, and she really liked this one because you could roll all the highs down. She is not a musician, not a guitar player at all, but she loves fuzz pedals. So, so let's kind of take a listen. Here's the clean tone. All right. one of those fuzz that kind of collapses. Let's listen to this tone knob. So this is the volume and gain right at noon. One thing I should mention, in this guitar I've got a treble bleed on the volume, and so that's why when I turn it down there's this huge drop in volume, because I've got a treble bleed on it, which is really not what you want when you want to clean up a fuzz. So here's the tone all the way down. Here's tone all the way up. It's probably gonna hurt. So that's way brighter and way darker than you'd ever need. Okay, and then now let's engage the octave fuzz circuit. All right, let me go grab my Strat, because this I think is really dying to have a Strat plugged into it. All right, so now I've got the Strat, so let's try this Foxy tone box with the Strat. Here's the clean tone on the neck pickup. It's a much weaker guitar, but I think it's going to work a lot better. So let's take this back, everything at noon, and the octave is not engaged. That's definitely more of that classic fuzz sound. So I took the tone down a little bit and increased the sustain knob. I always find that the middle pickup on a Strat sounds great with fuzz. I know a lot of people don't use the middle pickup at all on a Strat, but you know, there's great guitar players like Tomo who uses the middle pickup. He has some guitars that only have a middle pickup, and I love that. Always find that it works really well. Let's engage the octave. All right, let's take the octave back down and let's just max out the sustain and get some like Philip Stacey kind of tone. This is definitely not a subtle fuzz. Let's take the gain down a little bit and see what happens. It's a fun vintage fuzz right there. You know, it's something that won't work for most things, but if you're going after that classic, you know, fuzz sound. You know, real spitty. Yeah, it kind of just implodes on itself, you know, which is a certain kind of fuzz. You know, there's other fuzzes that don't quite fall apart like that, but this is that iconic sound. Alright, well that's it for today's video demoing these pedals. Hopefully this gave you a little bit of perspective on some of these pedals. I know that for at least the Holygrail Overdrive, there's not a lot of demos out there for it. You can find some demos of the Flex Drive, the J.Rockett Flex Drive, and the Warm Audio Foxy tone box. But maybe this gave you a little bit different perspective if you're looking at, you know, grabbing one of these pedals, and this gave you an idea, an idea of what they can do, at least with like a clean amp and, you know, in my rig and my setup. And, you know, I hope that you enjoyed today's video. If you like content like this, I would ask you to like and subscribe. This is a new channel, so share this channel with other people who like this kind of content, who are, you know, pedal nerds and tone geeks like myself. And so, and let me know in the comments other kinds of pedals and other content that you would like me to make. But for now, I've been Colin, and we'll see you next time. So we've got, all right, we're back from Nashville. Actually, let me back up. All right, around the country. Okay. All right. We stopped. Then they usually get the kick. hope that today, okay. Well, that's it for today's, okay. Let's do that all again. Let's make sure we're still good. And